All right, so I wanted to share some of what in my studies before our community group, some of what I found that I wanted to also share here. So our passage last week was Ephesians 3:14 through the rest of the chapter. But I'm going to pick up in verse 17 for a second. But before I do, I'm going to ask a couple of you if you have your phones, because I don't see people that necessarily have their Bibles on them. I've got 4 verses, and I'd love for 4 people to pick up the other 4 verses, so you're not waiting on me. So one of them is John 3:16. That one's not difficult, right? Jeremiah 31:3. Who wants to catch that one for me, please? Thank you, David. Philippians 2:7 and 8. Okay. And one more. If no one else wants it, I can go to this one quick, but it's Ephesians 2:6. Okay. All right. So, picking up in Ephesians 3:17, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you being rooted and grounded in love may have strength to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth, and to know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge. First, rooted and grounded, and this part is from Spurgeon. 2 expressions are used. Rooted, like a living tree which lays hold upon the soil, twists itself round the rocks, and cannot be upturned. You remember how Pastor was talking about we should be in a place where we don't need a miracle every day, right? That doesn't mean it's bad to see a miracle of God, right? But the point is we need to be stable in what we're doing. And if we are rooted like a living tree which lays hold upon the soil, twists itself round the rocks, and cannot be upturned. Makes me think of the passage where we are standing on the rock, where we are on the foundation of Christ. And we're not swayed by every wind of change that comes our way. Grounded, again from Spurgeon, like a building which has been settled as a whole and will never show any cracks or flaws in the future through failures in the foundation. To be grounded on something that firm. That you, being rooted and grounded in love, may have strength to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth. Think about that as the love of Christ. We talk about sometimes our own love for someone, right? Oh, I love you this much. And we put our arms out. Or my love for you runs so deep. But what do real things in this world have? They're not 2D, they're 3D. Think about the love of Christ being 3D, because that's what it gives us right here. It gives us breadth, length, height, and depth. God's love to us is real. It is tangible. No, I can't actually take a tape measure to it. There's not a box of God's love next to me. But it is real. So, these other verses, John 3:16.
For God so loved the world that He gave His only Son, that whoever believes in Him should not perish but have eternal life.
I want you to think about a river for just a second. When you come up on a river, what's typically your first thought about the river? Is it the length of the river, or do you notice the width of the river? When you come up on the Mississippi, the first time I did, I just went, that is a really wide river. It was visibly different from anything I had seen in Colorado growing up here, right? And it made me stop and think about the width of the river. Now think about, for God so loved the world. His love covers the world. It's wide enough to cover the world. Jeremiah 31:3. David?
The Lord appeared to him from far away. I have loved you with an everlasting love. Therefore, I have continued my faithfulness to you.
Did you hear that? I have loved you with an everlasting love. When you think about length of time to eternity, it's a distance that we can't actually comprehend, but we know it is a long way, right? The length of God's love is everlasting. Philippians 2:7-8.
But emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men, and being found in human form, he humbled himself, becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross.
The depth of Christ's love was that he humbled himself to come down from his throne. Just humbling himself to insert himself into humanity is one thing. But to humble himself, or to, if you will, he allowed himself to go to the depth of death on a cross. The worst death that we could think of at the time. He brought himself to that depth to save us. Ephesians 2:6.
And raised us up with him and seated us with him in the heavenly places in Christ Jesus.
And there's the height of God's love. When it's all said and done, what is he going to do? He is going to raise us to the height where he is, because we get to be there where he is. God's love is real. What is the breadth and length and height and depth? And to know the love of Christ that surpasses all understanding. That's what I've got this morning.